welcome everybody to another stream episode, whatever you want to call it. I'm really stoked about doing tonight because we are doing one of my favorite things ever, which is steak, and a lot of people have been asking for this one, so we're gonna sort of get right into it. But this is gonna be a little more freeform tonight because I'm gonna do a couple different preparations, but the main goal for tonight is to sort of get you to be able to cook a perfect steak, and it is not hard. We're going to go into a little bit of theory, understand what happens when you cook a steak. There's a lot of different ways to make a steak, and so that's where we're going to start. First of all, I want to say thanks to everybody who has followed the channel. Following the channel has advantages for me because it means that the past episodes stay on the server. So if you want to go back and watch something, or you miss something one week, apparently once I get to like 50 followers or something, yes, plates in the oven. However, tonight we don't really need to put the plates in the oven because honestly, I'm probably going to be eating this stuff right off the cutting board. So normally, yes, we would put plates in the oven. Tonight, you don't really need to. But yes, if you want to go back and watch previous streams, once I get to 50 followers, apparently they stay up forever. So Twitch is kind of new to me, but that's one of the advantages. So I have a steak here, and what I want to talk first about is, I guess, selecting a steak. Where do you get steak? Where do you get good steak? What do you avoid? So this one here I get from a local butcher. It's not too far from me, and he delivers, which is awesome. This is I guess technically a AAA strip loin. Strip loin is a really good cut when you're first starting out cooking steak. There's not a lot of like fat in the middle of it. Like a ribeye has a big piece of fat in the middle, and that can make it a little bit challenging to cook. This one, straight up steak, it's really easy to do this one. But I do want to show you some of the differences. Strip is a good cut. Ribeye is also an excellent cut, very tender. Filet mignon, the tenderloin steaks, which everybody seems to love, I'm not a huge fan. Yeah, they're really tender, but they don't have a lot of flavor. There's a reason they're wrapped in bacon when you get it in a restaurant, because the steak on its own doesn't have a lot of like beefy flavor. Now, if you can find it, a really, really great cut of steak to get is called, like the beefiest cut to me tasting is the top sirloin. And the sirloin is actually three pieces. There's the actual like sirloin part of it, and then there's what's called the top cap. This is sometimes called picanha, depending on your butcher. It can be a little bit harder to find. But that is an amazing steak to get. And the little bottom part under the sirloin is called like the mouse or something. I don't know why. But what to avoid for steak. So first of all, get your steaks from a butcher. You can't get a good steak in the supermarket. You just can't. And there's a whole bunch of reasons. First of all, the meat isn't that great. Canadian meat is graded, goes prime, AAA, AA, and then the rest. And you'll never see Canadian prime unless you go to a specialty butcher. Like only like 2% of Canadian beef gets graded prime. But like when a supermarket advertises cut from AA beef or better, that's not something to brag about, because everything below AA is dog food. Like they can it for animals. So that's kind of something you want to avoid. The other thing with supermarket steaks is retail meat cutters cut them for presentation to make it look like you're getting a really good deal. So as you'll see in a sec when we get to how to cook it, like what's a perfectly cooked steak. A steak needs to be a certain thickness to cook it properly. And supermarkets don't do that. They cut them really thin, so they look really big in the package, and you feel like you're getting a good deal, but really you're getting something that is going to be impossible to cook properly. Unless you like your steak well done, in which case you might as well buy it at a supermarket, because how are you going to tell, right? So since we're going on to doneness, lots of people like their steaks different ways, and there's no right or wrong here, but it does turn out that there is a way to cook a steak for maximum taste. And they've done all kinds of studies on this, and they cook the steaks all different kinds of ways. And really what you want to shoot for is medium rare, which is a steak that has a good crust on the outside. It's pink throughout. The center is set, so it's not blue or jelly. I know a lot of people like their steaks blue rare. That's fine. But that's a texture thing. That's not a flavor thing. If you cut a piece of raw steak and eat it, it really doesn't taste like much. But if you like the texture, if you like your steak blue rare, or you're really into the carnivore thing and you want to get back to your carnivore roots, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying, for a perfectly cooked steak, there is a way that a steak tastes at it like its best. Especially if you go to a restaurant, you're kind of wasting your time if you order your steak well done. You may like it that way, but don't ever cook. If you're gonna cook your steak well done, do it at home. Don't ever order it in a restaurant, because I guarantee you're getting something out of the back of the low boy that's been there for a week. Because how would you tell, right? So now that we've talked about that, the theory behind cooking a steak is really simple. Actually, let's go back to grading. We're gonna go back to grading for a sec. So as I said, this isn't quite, I think this is probably a AAA steak. AA steaks have almost no marbling, so I'm going to switch to there we go. Okay, so I don't know if you guys can see this. I'm going to hold it up. But this is the marbling. These little bits of fat throughout your steak are what make it juicy and tender and flavorful. Oh, by the way, feel free to jump in with any questions, comments as we go. This is going to be kind of all over the place today, because I'm kind of all over the place myself today. But as I said, AA steaks have almost no visible marbling, so this one's probably AAA. They used to have like 9 grades of steak, but the way they raise, feedlot beef now, it's impossible. All the higher grades are gone. Did you say that was top? This is a strip line. This one's a strip line. So, but compare it to, all the rage right now is Wagyu, Japanese Wagyu beef, which I have one here. So we're going to have a look at this one. So I got this at St. Lawrence Market yesterday. And just look at the difference. Like, that is an insane amount of marbling throughout this steak. Now, this isn't actually Japanese, this one. I'm going to try tonight. It's from the States, from Snake River. It was recommended to me by the guy behind the counter at the market. Normally, when I go to get Wagyu, I get the Australian, which is also really, really good. And it's, I lost my focus. Significantly less expensive. So, A5 Wagyu is about $200 plus a pound, which is not inexpensive. This one's about, I think this is about $80 or $90 a pound. Which sounds like a lot. This is a huge steak, and I'm going to show you some different preparations for this. This goes a long way. Like this, if you carve this up and do a nice presentation, this is going to serve 4 people. So I know $90 sounds like a lot for a steak. I mean, it is a lot for steak. But as I said, you can make this presentation go a long way. So that is the grades of meat. We talked about doneness and what you want to get for your steak. So how do you cook a steak? Right? That steak is what, 2? This one is, no, it's just, it's about 17 ounces. So, and it's nice and thick too. I don't know if you guys can see. This is a nice thick steak. This is about how thick you want your steak, guys. You don't want it less than 1.5 inches. It's going to be impossible to cook. And as we talk about the theory of how to cook a steak in all the different ways, it'll make sense. Okay, so your goal, yes, 1.5 inches. Your goal to cook a steak is you want a nice, flavorful crust on the outside, and you want your interior temperature to come up to the doneness level that you want. Now, for me, that's about 130 degrees. I like my steaks medium rare. To me, they just taste great that way. So the goal is, however you do it, and there's a ton of different ways to do this, but you want to get your steak inside up to 130 or 135, and you want a nice crust on the outside. 130 Fahrenheit, yeah, 130 centigrade is not hot enough for steak. or too hot. Yeah, no, 130 would be, it would explode. So, how do you do that? And there's a bunch of different ways. The way I'm going to show you guys tonight for this one is foolproof. I mean, you can't screw it up. It's in a pan, cast iron pan preferably, and it will give you a perfect steak every time. It's a really, really easy technique. Now, to do that, you need, and I do want to talk about gadgets. We've been talking about gadgets over the last few weeks, and I kind of want to feature one of my gadgets every week. We talked about this a little while ago. I have like one really good thing of everything that I need in the kitchen, and I don't have any extras. I had kind of an epiphany once, a long, long time ago when I was going through my kitchen, and I went to my kitchen drawer and realized I had like 8 different things for lifting things out of pots of water, like different variations on slotted spoons, and you don't need 8. You just need one. I settled on this guy here. Wait, where is it? This was like $5 at Galleria, and it's a Asian skimmer. I use this in a deep fryer. I use this in pots. This is my ultimate lifting things out of pots tool, and you really only need one. So there you go. But this will make, and you can't really cook steak without a thermometer. There are rules of thumb. They'll say this many minutes aside for this thickness. Forget it. You're never going to get it right that way. There's the old like cheek test where they tell you that like this is rare and this is medium and this is well done, and I really wanted that to work because I thought that was really cool. Like I would just be able to touch the steak and tell how well done it is. It's never worked for me. Maybe if I worked at the keg and I cooked steak day in, day out, week in, week out, I would get better at it. But don't make your life hard. You need a meat thermometer. This one here, I've had this for years and years and years. They still make it. It's called a Thermapen. It's expensive. They're like $100. You can't get it anywhere but the Thermapen website because they're really strict on who sells their product. You don't have to do this. You can get a perfectly good instant read thermometer on Amazon for about $18. I really like this because it gives you, this one like really does give you like an instant read within like 2 or 3 seconds. However, you're never in that much of a hurry for a steak, and this one's extremely accurate. It's down to like 0.1 degrees Fahrenheit. But again, you're cooking steak. You're not like doing cold fusion. You don't need to be that accurate. But I'm kind of a geek, and as I said, I like the best one thing to have. So this is you have to have one of these, and this will make cooking your steak so much easier because you can stick it in any time, find out where you're at. And as we get into the technique what I'm going to show you, you'll see how that works. Now there are other ways to cook your steak. There's the reverse sear method, which means you put your steak in the oven at like, I don't know, don't go too crazy, 200 for as long as it takes to get it up to your internal temperature. So at 200 degrees it's going to take about like this guy would be about 15-20 minutes, so it's kind of forgiving. Doesn't happen very fast. That's a good question. Steaks at room temperature to start. Yes and no. It depends on how you're going to cook it. Everybody says have the steaks at room temperature. If you're going to throw it in a red hot pan and do like a fast sear, then yeah, you want your steaks at room temperature simply because by the time you get a good crust on the outside, you're not going to be able to cook the inside to your desired temperature. You're going to get too dark on the outside. But if you're going with any of the other slow methods, you don't really need to. Like by all means, if you remember to take them out of the oven, I never remember, or out of the fridge, go for it. But don't sweat it because the technique I'm going to show you works with steaks that, I mean, don't do a frozen one, but if it's been in the fridge, you'll be fine. And obviously if you're doing like sous vide, which is behind me, which we'll talk about in a sec, then it doesn't matter. So goal number 1, the reverse sear method, no matter how you do it, get your steak up to the temperature you want, and it's basically done, and then you just throw a quick sear on it. You can do that in a cast iron pan. You can do that with a kitchen torch. You need a pretty beefy one. Like you can't do it with like those little creme brulee ones. But if you have a kitchen torch, you can put a flame on it that way. You can take it outside and throw it on the grill, like whatever. So, but tonight I've been experimenting with sous vide. I don't know if you can see it back here. So this is a immersion cooker. This will bring your steak up to the temperature. You can set it. You can track it on your phone, although I don't, because it works just fine like this. So this one has a water bath. It's kept at a constant 55 centigrade, so it's 130-ish Fahrenheit, and that will bring the steak up to temperature, and it won't cook any further. So the steak can just sit there at 130 and be perfectly cooked until I'm ready to go get it and throw it in a pan or put my sear on it. Now, the one thing I've learned about sous vide steak is theoretically I could leave that in 24 hours and it's never going to cook. This thing is an immersion cooker. So people call this a sous vide cooker, but it's not really. Sous vide means cooking under pressure. It's French, obviously. And typically what you do when you do these is you vacuum seal your food and it goes in the immersion cooker. This is just a really accurate, reliable way to bring your steak up to the temperature you want. And as I said, theoretically, you can leave that in for 24 hours and it will just stay at 130 perfectly cooked until you're ready to get it. However, I have learned that that's not exactly the case. Yes, it won't cook anymore, but there's other things going on with the steak. The connective tissue's breaking down, so there's other things happening when you add heat to food, especially steak. So I've done these at 90 minutes is about the minimum because you need to bring it up to temperature and it takes about that long. 2 hours is fine, but after about 3 hours, the texture of the meat starts to get a little odd. Like it loses some of its chew. It becomes like mushy, which is not really a texture I want in steak. If I wanted mushy, I would just cook tenderloin to begin with. So yeah, I like the idea of doing it like a slow cooker style, like putting it in the morning and just coming and getting whatever, but it doesn't really work that way. You really have to grab it after a couple hours. That one's been in since 5:30 maybe, 5:45, so we'll see how it goes. Okay, we talked about that. Okay, so what we're going to do, I'm going to do a little bit of actually prepping with you guys. I typically have everything ready to go, but people were asking to see how shit goes together in the kitchen. So one of my favorite preparations for steak is, because these are huge pieces of meat, by the way, like this one here on the left serves two really hungry people. Like it's a little over a pound. Cut it in half. It's rich. It's a really good steak. I can't eat a whole one of these, so I normally split one of these. My partner likes it a little more well done than I have, and I really like strip loins for that reason, because typically one end is a little bit thinner than the other. So this is the Serena end of the steak, and this is the Rob end, and I can put it in for the same amount of time, and I get a slightly weller done on the end. However, I think my favorite way to serve steak is sliced on a baguette with a chimichurri. So I'm going to show you guys how I do a chimichurri, which is really, really straightforward. No, I don't think I do, actually. Okay, so this is my mini chop. I don't have a full-size food processor because I just don't need it. This has always been big enough for me. So chimichurri is garlic. This is for big cloves, but as I said, use whatever. And as I said, I'm not going to give you guys quantities for recipes. I mean, I'll eventually figure out a way to put up the recipes and link it. But even in my blue book, and if you guys haven't started your blue book, you should. I put rough quantities in here, but I never put a quantity for garlic when I'm writing down a recipe. It's a personal preference. It's a taste. I really like garlic, so I put a lot in. If you don't, put less in. But things like garlic and Parmesan and stuff like that, taste your food and decide what you like. So this is garlic. What else we got here? Parsley. So this is actually the only time... Oh, let me go to the cooking thing. There we go. This is the only time I use curly parsley. Every recipe says use flat leaf parsley, it's better. And for 99% of the things you're going to do, flat leaf parsley is better. And I don't know why But curly parsley in this recipe gives a really nice consistency and emulsion for the oil. I haven't been able to figure it out. I've made this with flat leaf parsley before, and the chimichurri breaks. It's oily and it separates, and you'll see when this is done. It just works out really well. What else we need here? We're going to put a little bit of salt in here. And some pepper. By the way, any questions on anything so far? I feel like we're covering a lot of ground here. And I know I talk fast, so if I'm going too fast for you guys, let me know. And I probably won't slow down, but at least I can repeat myself. Okay, pepper, salt, pepper. I like a little kick in my chimichurri. This is kind of optional, so, you know, this for me, 2 pinches is enough kick for this recipe. And a little bit of vinegar there to cut the richness. Probably lemon. And again, I don't have a quantity down for this. I just kind of go with like a lemon. Okay. So another shortcut for this. Most of the times when that was chili flakes, yeah. I have these everywhere. I put these in everything. But yeah. Most of the time when you're adding oil to an emulsion or to emulsify something, they tell you to add it in a slow, steady stream. And honestly, I just don't have the patience for that. I think it's unnecessary. If I was whisking this or making a hollandaise, that's totally different. But for chimichurri, I mean, this thing spins at like 5,000 RPM. I can't imagine it makes a difference. Not quite. There we go. So you guys can see this. I'm going to spoon show you. But this has a really nice consistency, which I just don't get with flat leaf parsley. So we're going to do that in a sec. Okay. So get this out of the way. All right. Any other questions before we actually get into like cooking a steak? I'm really looking forward to doing the Wagyu, but I don't want to rush through all this. All right. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to cook the regular strip loin. And this is the technique. Wow, really hot. This is the technique that I recommend you start with cooking your steak. You can be inventive. You can do whatever you want. As long as you get your internal temperature up to where you want and you get a good sear, it doesn't really matter how you do it. I will say that barbecuing steaks is actually oddly challenging because the flame is really hot, it's really hard to control, and it's really easy to undercook your steak, because by the time you get a nice crust, if your fire is too hot, your interior isn't cooked. And yes, you can sear it on one side, you move it over to the other side, and you can close the lid and whatever. Barbecues are great. However, it's been raining for like a week straight, and we're doing this inside. So the other thing too is I like to sear my steaks in duck fat. Oh, you know what else we're gonna do tonight? Price difference. Okay, so actually this has got to heat up anyway. I'm gonna turn this down just a bit. Let's talk a little bit about where to get good value on a steak, because that's really important, because not everybody has unlimited money. I certainly don't, although I spend a disproportionate amount of my income on ingredients. Not everybody does that. So this steak I actually got at Costco, and what I did was I bought an entire strip loin at Costco is about 150 bucks. It might have been a little bit more. So you can go to Costco, you can buy an entire strip loin. Don't be intimidated by that. It's really easy to carve it up. You just cut it in slices like a loaf of bread. It's that simple. Also, you can trim the meat before you cut it. And it'll make sense when you see it. When you get a whole strip loin, there's little bits of fat and there's connective tissue on it that obviously doesn't belong. Just trim it off with a knife before you slice it. And then you literally slice it into 1.5-inch slices like a loaf of bread. Bag them and throw them in the freezer. I have a food saver, so I vacuum seal them and I throw them in the freezer. They look, hang on, I'll show you. They look like this. I got 12 steaks out of that strip loin. Each one was about £1. So for 150 bucks, I got 12, and I got 12 properly cut steaks. And I know they're properly cut because I did it. No supermarket skinny guys, no fast fry. By the way, fast fry at the supermarket, you ever see fast fry steaks? I don't know what that is. I wouldn't feed it to an animal. But anyway, so these were like, this one was about, what, 12, 13 bucks each? Which I think is incredible value. They taste good. This steak tastes good. We've had this a few times. It's not as good as the strip loins I get from our local butcher who delivers. However, the local butcher who delivers, they're about 25, 26 bucks each for a 16-ounce steak. So twice the price. Is it twice as good? Maybe. I don't know. Kind of. But for like a good, solid week in, week out steak, I'm pretty impressed with it, actually. This guy was 90 bucks, which is, I understand, like pretty extravagant for a steak. And as I said, this isn't the kind of steak where I would take this and just like throw it in a pan and cook it like another strip loin. This is, it's an occasion steak. Something that I'll show you the preparations we're going to do. We're going to slice it. We're going to cook it. If you order these in restaurants, the guy comes to your table, or they do it on a flat top in front of you, and they cut little bits, and they fry it up right in front of you, and they give you little pieces at a time, so you can savor it and enjoy it. This isn't something you're going to like cut huge chunks off and like do it like keg style. So just different presentations. Okay. So, we did talk about where to get steak. And we're talking about, oh yeah, so I fry mine in duck fat. You can use butter. I have a love affair with duck fat. I'll find a spoon. And I always have a ton of it around because I do a lot of duck confit, so I always have like lots of duck fat in the fridge. You may not, but you can buy it. Pretty much any grocer has duck fat in the meat section. It's also wow, it's a really hot pan. Holy shit! It's also better for you than butter. I'm not knocking butter. Don't get me wrong. Like, I love butter, but this has way less saturated fat than butter. So okay. So now let's get going on this one. And I'm just gonna fry this one up for you guys. This might get a bit loud. I hope you guys can still hear me. And we are going to go set my timer. 2 minutes and 22 seconds per side. Pause. Can you guys hear okay? I know, is that really, really loud up the... Okay, so this is going to take a little while. Hasn't really. So don't panic if it sticks. This is stuck. It will it'll release in a second. And then the other thing we're going to do tonight, which is behind me here, this is my deep fryer. We're going to do steak frites because the best thing to serve with steak is like frites, fries, little thin ones. Which so this deep fryer is actually full of duck fat. You don't have to fry in duck fat. Peanut oil works just fine. Any kind of oil is fine. But as I said, potatoes fried in duck fat just are mind-blowing. They just taste like out of this world. So, and you can see we're going to take a temperature here. Of course, this is going to be like... Okay, so this one is room temperature, 71 degrees in the middle. Because I let these sit out. For this method, you don't have to let them come up to room temperature. That cast iron, no question. And the reason cast iron is great is not because, hot. Everybody thinks cast iron cooks, like, heats really evenly. It really doesn't. If you want to prove it to yourself, put your cast iron pan on your stove burner and sprinkle some flour in, and then watch where the flour browns. Cast iron pans do not heat. I mean, if you leave them on long enough, they'll heat evenly across. But the main advantage of a cast iron pan is not the fact that it's heated evenly, it's the thermal mass. So when you get a cast, if I heat this up for 10 minutes, and I normally heat the pan for longer before I throw the steak on. Put your pan on medium, don't crank it. Put it on medium for 10 minutes, and then turn it up to your temperature when you start cooking. But what it means is that thermal mass keeps the pan from... I'm going to restart this. It keeps the pan from going cold when you put food in it. This is a big... Come on, let's go. There we go. There, you can see we're getting color already. So it keeps your pan from going cold when you put a big chunk of like cool food in it. Cast iron also gives a really nice sear. And I'm not going to do a pan sauce tonight, but quite often with maybe I'll do that in another stream. Step back from this. Quite often I will do like a red wine reduction in the pan. Oh, I did salt these. Sorry, this was salted before I started the stream. Yes, you do want to salt. You want to dry your steak. You want to salt it. That will draw the moisture like up to the surface and give you a nice crust. So I don't pepper my steaks before I put them on the grill. Pepper scorches, and there are ways to get around it. I used sea salt, yeah. There's ways to get around, like they do pepper encrusted tenderloin. Again, they do pepper encrusted tenderloin. The tenderloin doesn't taste like anything unless it's encrusted in pepper. However, there are ways to mitigate your heat. What oil am I using? This is duck fat in the pan here. You can also use butter. Butter gives a really nice flavor, especially since you're cooking at a slightly higher temperature. So your butter's going to brown a bit. It's going to give you that caramelized, like basically going to burn it a little tiny bit. But duck fat just tastes so amazing. Butter can burn quickly. So I normally don't cook with butter in the pan. I will put butter on after. Every restaurant does this, and they do it because it tastes amazing. I usually just have a stick of butter, and I rub the top of the steak when it's resting. And we're going to see what temperature we're at here. Okay, so we're almost up to 100 degrees here. It's actually coming along pretty quick. The other thing with cooking with duck fat, or any kind of fat in the pan, you can get duck fat, like, pretty much any grocer that isn't like No Frills will have it. I get mine at St. Lawrence Market, but I've also seen it at Farm Boy. I know Loblaws has it, although you'll pay an arm and a leg for it. It's worth the effort to go down to like St. Lawrence Market or a butcher to get it. As I said, I don't actually normally buy it because I started with, it's almost like sourdough. I started with a little bit of duck fat and started confying duck legs. And duck legs shed a ton of fat. So every time you do it, you have more and more and more fat. Which is one of the reasons when I do a duck confit, I don't put a lot of aromatics in because that'll flavor the fat, which sometimes you want, sometimes you don't. But I like to keep things neutral because I never know what I'm going to do with my duck legs. you know, you can do, yeah, llamas will do it. If you don't know what you're going to do with your end product, it doesn't make any sense to season it first. So I've seen really great, and I've done it before when I'm no serving at night. You can do great duck gut or duck confit recipes. You put a little rosemary in with it, a little thyme, some herbs, salt and pepper, and that's fantastic. But a lot of the times, and the whole point of duck confit is it keeps forever. I'm making a whole batch, and I don't know what I'm going to do with it. Sometimes it's going to get shredded and go in a taco. Sometimes I'm going to just pan sear it. So I want to season it then. I'm not going to season it in advance because if I pick the wrong seasoning for what I'm going to eventually do with it, it's not going to work. Alright, let's see where we're at here. No, still going. Okay, so another thing to talk about here is how steaks have to rest. So, sorry, not all steaks have to rest. When you pan fry a steak or you put it on the barbecue, you're driving the juices from the steak away from the exterior of the steak into the center of the steak. And if you just throw it on a plate and cut into it, it's going to have a weird texture. And also it continues cooking. So a steak will continue to cook. It'll go up 5 degrees or so just sitting on the counter. So again, when you're aiming for, if I want 135, I want to take this off around 130 because it's going to go up a little bit in temperature. Man, I am taking a beating from this fat. All right, we're getting there. So the thinner ends at 104, and this ends at 100. And again, guys, gotta have one of these. It just takes all the guesswork out of it. I've cooked lots and lots and lots of steaks, and I know roughly how it's done. I would still never cook without it. It's just peace of mind, especially if you're paying $90 a pound for steak. The last thing you want to do is overcook it. That would be just tragic. Is my burner on medium high? No. It's probably just on medium. When I do this on the stove, I do it medium high. And I'm still getting used to this burner. This little burner just cranks out heat like there's no tomorrow. But you don't need to do it on high heat. I know, like, when people talk about doing steak, they talk about getting a cast iron pan, like, glowing cherry red and throwing it in for a good sear, and it's not necessary. And I wanted to make this easy. This is my tried and true method. If you just do this, you flip it every 2 minutes and 22 seconds, and the only reason I picked 2 minutes and 22 seconds is because normally I use the microwave timer, and I just want to hit the 2 button like 3 times in a row instead of switching to the 0. So you just keep turning it. This always gives me an amazing crust, and it gives me a perfectly cooked steak every time. And it's dead simple. Okay, I'm gonna flip this guy. Look at this. Yes, I know you do. I don't know if you were here for the beginning of that. Okay, so now we're really cooking along here. This is almost done. Okay, I'm gonna take this here. Plug this in. So I'm guessing this guy is good. Okay, so I'm like 110 in the middle here. But I'm a little concerned because this middle bit is actually getting quite done. So I'm going to take it off. As you can see, look at the color on steak will continue cooking on the plate. It's going to go up 5 to 10 degrees. Whether you cover or not is up to you. This should, excuse me. we're going to let this rest at least 5 minutes. A steak should technically rest probably as long as it was on in the pan. I'm not going to do that on the stream because I don't want to sit around here for 10 minutes waiting for it. Normally, I think 5 minutes is going to be enough. Yes, tenting is something that some people do and some people don't. I do put butter on it. I'm going to not put butter on this one because I haven't cooked with the duck fat in a while and I want to see how it tastes like without the butter. But normally, yes, I would do it now. I actually have it here. Let's put some butter on it. I mean, how long can it be, right? So, as I said, just take this and let's just glow this up a bit. Now, typically a restaurant will do this like right before they bring it out to you because, like, look how good that looks. I don't know if you guys can see. I'm going to get this up to the camera here. Like, look how glossy and amazing it looks with the butter on it. So there you go. Okay. So, and you know what? Do we talk about frites? Oh yeah, we're doing frites. So I'm just waiting for the deep fryer to heat up. Since we have 5 minutes, let's talk about fries. Fries are awesome. I love fries. That's why I have a deep fryer. To make really, really good fries, you got to fry them twice, which actually works out to your advantage. So typically, I cut my fries. So these ones I cut thin. You can cut your fries any way you want, guys. It doesn't really matter. But typically, I cut mine for steak frites. I cut them thin. They go in the fryer for about 3 minutes. Actually, 3 minutes and 33 seconds. Guess why? And then I take them out, and then you can just leave them. So I have them here. I did these earlier today, actually. Well, after work. And these are just ready to go. Yes, double frying your fries. The reason McDonald's fries are so good is this is the way they do it too. They technically do it slightly differently. They blast them with steam. So they cut the potatoes, they blast them with steam, and then they freeze them and ship them to the restaurant. But the fries that go into the deep fryer at the restaurant have already been like par cooked. And you'll see that these are going to be good. We'll do it in a second. I'm just waiting for the oil to come up to temperature. Again, this little thermopan is good to like 500 degrees, so I can use it to check the oil temperature, which I'm going to do right now. Okay, it's not quite. You know what we'll do in the meantime? While this is resting, we are going to take this, we're going to do the sous vide one. Let me get this going back. So, remember I talked about you want to get your internal temperature to, wow, it's hot, a certain point. Put this here. Let me show you this. What kind of potatoes for the fries? So, normally I use russets. I always use russets because apparently they have lots of starch and it's supposed to make an amazing fry. And for years I used only russets, like baking potatoes. But lately I've been using yellow potatoes and I find it's a pretty good fry too. It's kind of a personal preference thing. So just try a bunch. I wouldn't use like straight up white potatoes, but a russet's good. The Yukon Gold are great. Try a couple different kinds and see what you like. I would start with russets, just because that's what everybody uses. But I've actually become partial to the Yukon Gold. So let's turn this off. So what we have in here, and I told you we'd be all over the place tonight. So this guy is kind of an experiment. I haven't done this before. So I sous vide steak all the time. People just, yeah, I mean, quite frankly, there aren't that many different kinds of potatoes. You see yellow, red, Yukon Gold, and russets at the supermarket, and that's kind of it. I've never looked for potatoes at St. Lawrence Market, like seriously, but maybe that's a thing. But I learned a few days ago, speaking of duck confit, because I was looking up things to do with duck fat. You can so normally when you do, and we're jumping all over the place here, guys. we're talking about duck confit. I know it's steak night, but bear with me. It has relevance. When you do a duck confit, you literally poach them or braise them in their own fat for hours and hours and hours, which honestly is amazing. It turns out you can sous vide duck legs, which means that you don't put as much duck fat in the bag. In fact, with certain duck legs, you don't have to put any in, and you can just sous vide them, and they confit in the bag because the bag puts pressure on it and keeps everything in nice and tight. So I thought for tonight, and since I normally fry in duck fat, I would sous vide or do a steak duck fat confit. So this has been in the sous vide, the immersion blender, the bath, for about almost 2 hours. And before I sealed it in the bag, I packed the top and the bottom with duck fat. So we're going to sear this off and see how it tastes. I'm really curious. Yeah, I'll probably do this for a sec. Okay. So, I know this doesn't look very appetizing. I know you guys can see that. Look at that. It's a horrible gray color. Ugh. Anyway, that's okay, because we are going to sear the crap out of it right now. And the interesting thing about, yes, we're just searing it off. All we're going for is crust, and it'll probably just take like a minute aside in the pan. The interesting thing about doing sous vide steak is it doesn't need to rest because you haven't like put it over a high heat and driven all the juices into the center of the steak. All right, we're just going to do this 1 minute aside and see where we're at. You gotta mix. So does anybody have any questions as we go through this? So this steak here is the same as that one. I got it. This is one of the Costco cuts. And I'm going to be eating steak sandwiches for like a week. Yep, perfect. No, I'm going to flip it early. There you go. Now it's a proper color. Okay. Almost. So obviously with the sous vide one, there's no carryover cooking because the sous vide brings it up to 130 degrees, keeps it there. It's not going to continue cooking after it comes off the heat. No, not quite. And then once this one's off, I'll show you guys the whole prep, and then we're going to dig into the Wagyu because I'm really dying to try it. So, how do people feel like they could cook a steak at this point? Just turning every couple of minutes until they get the crust? I mean, it really is, I like to think it's foolproof, but I've been surprised before. This one looks great. Okay. So I'm going to turn this off for a sec. I'm not getting a lot of smoke, actually. The one thing about cooking with a little bit of fat in the pan is you don't generate nearly as much smoke as you do in like a dry or like a dry pan. Like you just throw the steak into, like I have this, where is it? I can't find it. So this was one of my failed experiments. I wanted to love this thing. This is a cast iron ridged pan, and one of the things that I really like about cooking steak is like getting nice grill marks. By the way, if you ever do get a chance to cook on a barbecue, make sure that you put your steak's presentation side down. So pick the best looking side of the steak and start with that one on the grill. Put it on your grill for 90 seconds, turn it 90 degrees for another 90 seconds, and then you can do what you want, but you get those nice like restaurant commercial style grill marks. How would I do the steaks in the barbecue? That's a really good question. So there's two schools of thought. I'm a flipper. Partly because I have trouble just letting things sit without poking them and seeing what's going on. So if I was doing these on the barbecue, I would pretty much do... I'll get to that in just a sec. I would probably have done it pretty much the same way. I might have flipped it like every minute, to be honest, on the barbecue. But I like grill marks. So, sorry, barbecue 90 seconds, turn it 90 degrees, 90 seconds. I'm going to flip it to get a good sear on the other side for 2 minutes, and then probably just move it to indirect heat and let it finish. That's going to make the best looking steak, and it's a little trickier to do. If you're not sure about your cooking skills or whatever, just turn it every minute. And you don't have to have your barbecue cranked. It's sort of two different techniques. I like the forgiveness until you get used to cooking steak. I like the forgiveness of a moderate heat and flipping every couple of minutes. Lets you check the temperature, see where you're at. You're not going to screw it up. You don't want to like blow up a piece of Wagyu. And you don't want to waste any food, obviously. So this didn't work. This ridged pan put amazing grill marks on. It also filled the entire apartment with smoke. And I don't have a good extraction hood here. I don't have anyone at all. It just wasn't practical. So if anybody's close by and wants this, just shoot me a message. Monica, tell the different steaks. Okay, so we're going to really quick go back over what kind of steaks you should be looking for. There's two things you're looking for. You're looking for quality and cut. It's actually a lot like a diamond, although there's no clarity. I think if you're just getting into cooking steak, strip loins are the best. They're consistent. It's an even cut. It's pretty much a consistent thickness throughout. There isn't a huge knot of fat in the middle like there is on a ribeye. It's really forgiving, and if you get it cut the proper thickness, you really can't go wrong. So once you've decided, and ribeyes are great too, don't get me wrong. I would start with one of the two cuts. In terms of quality of meat, you're not going to get good quality meat at a supermarket. You're just not. Don't buy supermarket meat. There's a whole industry in North America on feedlot beef. It's not pretty, so it's worth going. Like, steak should be a fun thing. It's not like a burger. If you just want to have meat one night, make yourself a burger. It's great. Steak should be like a special occasion, and it's worth spending extra money on it and just having it right. Having said that, any reputable butcher will have pretty good steak. If you can find, they do grade Canadian beef prime. It's pretty rare. As I said, I think only about 2% of Canadian beef gets graded prime. So you typically have to go to like a good butcher to find it. But AAA is fine. Half the meat in Canada is graded AAA. And I have a feeling they're fudging it a little bit, but I'll switch back to talk here. There we go. Don't, like double A meat, don't. Supermarket meat, don't. Thin cut steaks, fast fry, that kind of stuff, just don't. It's not worth it. You put a lot of time and energy into preparing a steak and learning how to do it. And to do it on a piece of meat that's just not worth your time, it doesn't make any sense to me. Okay, so we did that. Monica, does that answer your question? Wagyu and Kobe are kind of the same thing. So Wagyu is a breed, which started in Japan. Kobe beef is kind of also like a method of raising Wagyu beef, and they do all kinds of crazy stuff where they massage beer into the calf muscles and stuff like that. I mean, it's probably a good life being a Wagyu cattle right up until the end anyway. But other countries do really good Wagyu. So the breed has spread, or people are taking the breed and raising them otherwise. Australia has amazing Wagyu beef, and it's half the price of Japan or less. And the States is also doing it as well. As I said, this one I have behind me here, which we're going to try in just a sec, is American. I've never tried it, but I'm looking forward to it. Kabargia Monica, you good there? Gonna go with yes. Okay, so I'm gonna do a quick presentation because I know my partner's getting hungry before we go into the Wagyu, which will be our finale or whatever. But let's see where we're at now. This is a baguette. Bread knife. So this one, I just like to thinly slice, and it helps if it doesn't have this huge hole in it. So this is great for like a picnic. Switch cameras, yeah, that's a good idea. There we go. How's that? This is great for a picnic. This is great to serve a bunch of people. As I said, and you can see steak is expensive. So this, I don't want to say it stretches the steak because I hate the concept of like stretching a meal to feed more people. However, this tastes amazing and your steak does go a long way when you do it this way. Okay. So we got our thing. And we'll just pop this into... Oh. It's always a good idea to like pulse it once before. There we go. And normally, I know we've talked about this before, guys. I don't normally throw shit in the sink till later. I'm always cleaning as I go, but I don't do it on stream. However, it's a really good habit to get into. It will make your cooking so much more enjoyable if you don't get to the end of your meal and have like a gigantic pile in the sink, and there's just no need for it. You always have a few seconds of downtime when you're cooking, so get in the habit of just like throwing it out there. Where did my chef's knife go? Here we go. Okay, so let's see how these guys ended up. Oh yeah, you can see. Okay, so this is the sous vide. So I'm just gonna go right into the center of this guy. And it is medium. Look at that. Not super impressed with that. This isn't bad. Nothing wrong with a medium steak. However, that is a solid medium. I was expecting it to be a lot more pink. So but for this presentation, we're just going to try a little bit here. So this on here. A spoon. And a little bit of this on top. Okay. That's really good. Medium or not, that's very tasty. Okay. Well, that's that one. Let's get into this guy. Higher hopes for this one. Told you it'd be all over the place tonight. Always an experiment. And medium as well. What the hell's the matter with me? Down here? Nope. Okay, so we are not going to make this mistake with the Wagyu. And again, there's nothing wrong with a solid medium steak. Actually, this one's medium. Let's see how it tastes. So this is the one, this was the duck fat one, which was actually really tasty. This one we just fried in duck fat. Let's just see how it goes. It's still really good. Honestly, not a ton of difference in consistency or taste between the sous vide and just the regular pan fry. Oh, interesting. Okay, so any questions on what we just did, on how the steak looks, the presentation? There's nothing wrong with actually just slicing this up and eating it. This is also where you're, like if you take a... Actually, you know what? It's pinking up. I don't know what's going on. I wonder if they didn't rest as much. This is where you can use your, like your fancy flake salt. We talked about salt. Well, we always talk about salt because it's awesome. But this is where you can take like the crystals. And as I said before, all salt tastes the same. If you dissolve salt in water, it doesn't matter whether there's big crystals. Does it look medium rare? Oh yeah, it does. Okay, I'll take it. Looks different on camera, doesn't it? Hang on. Oh, it's pinking up. Okay. It's not as medium as I thought. That's actually medium rare. Okay, great. I was worried for a second. Having these salt crystals pop, this is where the texture of the salt makes a difference. This is why people think that different salts taste differently, that they're super rare, picked by, you know, whatever, from the sea flats or the low tide. Salt is so amazing. It's the texture of the salt that makes the difference. And it tastes really good. You get that crunch and the pop of the salt. It's awesome. But we're going to move on because I'm dying to try this Wagyu. Somehow we're going to move on. Running out of space here, guys. This is the problem you have in your kitchen's 40 square feet. This looks really good, actually. Okay, take it all back. Steak is medium rare. But we're going to go back to... Can you guys see the burner? The burner there. Bread there. And we're going to put the Wagyu on this somehow. All right. Look at this guy. And here's, Monica, here's where you can see the difference in the quality of the steak. Just the insane marbling through this thing is incredible. So what we're going to do with this guy, I think, and I'm going to do a little prep here. So I'm going to take the end off this. And what I want, even look at this, look at the center of this, guys. I don't know if you guys can see that. Look at that. Look at the marbling. This is the difference. And it's a shame that they don't, like, decades ago, this kind of meat was way more common. And it's just not now. They don't feedlot beef because of what they feed the animals. They're fed on straight up grain. They never develop that kind of texture. Having said that, I don't really like grass-fed beef. I know it's a big thing, and certainly what the cow eats is really important to the taste of the meat. You don't want a steak from an animal that's been fed like a highly refined grain product. But I'm not big on like naturally grazed. There's got to be a happy medium. Maybe it's just me. I find that grass-fed steaks taste weird. So I'm hoping I can slice this thin enough. There we go. This last one's going to be a challenge. Okay, just a sec. And again, I hope you guys can see this. This just looks absolutely incredible. This last little bit's going to be tough to... There we go. Okay. Now I've got 3 nice little pieces to try. Let's get some heat going. So this will cook really fast. And while that's coming up to temperature, I'm going to show you the next preparation. So chimichurri is awesome and all that. It has a very strong flavor. I really want to try this with something a lot tamer, although I'm sure this would be amazing with chimichurri. I'll have a lot for the chimichurri. So what we're going to do is this. I have these. I don't want to reach in. Here we are. So this is something I have not tried yet. This is a technique from one of my favorite chefs, Hiro Sushi, or Hiro of Hiro Sushi. I don't know if you guys have ever seen the movie or the documentary Hiro Dreams of Sushi. I can show you how to sharpen knives someday. Yes. Remind me. I can do that. Hiro is a really famous sushi chef from Japan who became really famous because of the documentary Hiro Dreams of Sushi, which I highly recommend you watch. However, this is his preparation, and I'm going to try it tonight because I'm really curious. These eggs were actually in with a steak at 135 to pasteurize them. So if you're like, feel that eating raw egg yolk is a little bit sketch, you can pasteurize your eggs. You can also do this dropping an egg in boiling water for about 50 seconds. The other reason I do them, pasteurize them, has nothing to do with safety, because quite frankly I don't have a problem with raw egg yolk. I use it all the time in all kinds of things, Caesar dressing and whatever. But you get an amazing, where do you see the yolk? You get an amazing silky texture out of these yolks. It's just really has to be experienced. Don't break you. Come on, let go. There we go. Okay. So there we go. And actually, yeah, that'll be fine. So this is a pasteurized egg yolk, and what we're going to do is we're going to fry up the piece, and we're going to dip it in that egg yolk, and we're going to eat it. I know it sounds weird, but people rave about it. So if enough people rave about it, I'm willing to give it a shot. And we are at the right temperature. My duck fat is smoking now. Let's see how this goes. I don't want the thinner one. There we go. So the last time, you guys can see that. The last time I did a Wagyu meal, beef like this, I used my flat top. I have like a griddle, and I just sliced it up however, like into morsel-sized pieces that looked good, and we just ate it right off the griddle. It was amazing. Not quite. So this is obviously going to cook extremely fast. Everything we talked about before about getting the internal temperature up and the crust on completely goes out the window, because this is just like, we're really just putting a sear on this and that's it. Okay, I think this is done. It's also a huge piece. And again, look at that. Perfect. It's like actually a mini representation of what we were talking about. It's perfectly pink throughout and a good crust on the edges. Yeah, it's kind of scary, eh? Okay. So now let's see. Oh, that was insane. Okay. I highly recommend you guys try this. This would probably be really good with just, like, obviously the Wagyu is amazing, but I'm sure that I could take a slice of any of these pieces. It's really good. That's crazy. By the way, duck fat smokes at 375 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about exactly where my deep fryer is. So we're going to take a quick break. and do the fries, because that'll be fun. Okay, so any questions on that preparation? Well, we're good? All right. So now, just give me 2 seconds here. Okay. I do not worry about the safety of raw eggs, not even a little. Life is too short. But having said that, I did, those were pasteurized. Those eggs were in the sous vide for like an hour at 130, so they are actually technically safe to eat. I would have been just as happy with a raw egg. However, I do find that process of pasteurizing them, in addition to making them safe, which I don't really care about, gives the egg yolk an amazing silky texture. It's the same reason I do the same thing when I do my Caesar dressing, because you use the egg yolk to emulsify your Caesar dressing. Same thing, although I don't do it sous vide. I just put them in boiling water for about 55 seconds, which is not quite coddling the egg, but it's almost. And it just gives an amazing texture to the dressing. So if you're making Caesar dressing, do the same thing. Excuse me 1 second. By the way, guys, if you don't have a deep fryer, and you should, this one's amazing. I got this on Amazon. There's a company called Fry Daddy that makes deep fryers. That's the Grandpappy version, which is the large version, which I would get because the Fry Daddy is supposedly small. I can't imagine doing enough food for 2 people in anything smaller than that. But it is fire and forget. You plug it in, it gets the oil to the perfect temperature. It reheats super fast, so you don't have to worry about your oil dropping in temperature too much. Okay. My fries are almost ready. And no, I don't heat my plate for fries. Okay, let me switch back to food cam. And these are, oh, they need a little salt. There you go. So these are frites done in duck fat. And they're really hot. Get those in a second. So I feel like we've covered a ton of ground. I hope we didn't go too fast. Does anybody have any questions about anything that's happened so far? So, until you've had fries fried in duck fat, there's really nothing like it. Now, you don't need a deep fryer. You can do this, it's a little scarier. You can do it in a cast iron pan, in like an inch of oil. I've done fried chicken that way. But, I mean, deep fryers are pretty handy. Don't buy the Canadian Tire Special deep fryers. I know I've had a bunch. More deep fryers than one person should probably own in a lifetime. And they've all been a disappointment except for that one. Yeah, it's really good. Okay, hang on. I'm going to run these fries in our partner who's probably starving. Be right back. Oh. All right, I'm back. Favorite condiment for fries? I'm a big fan of mayo. I have tried mayo in Dijon. I'm a big fan of mayo. I actually like ketchup. I kind of have like, you know what? We're gonna do a burger. We're gonna do a burger stream soon. And wow, I really like the way it's pinked up. So the meat actually turned out great, guys. I don't know why I thought it was medium. It really isn't. I find ketchup too sweet for a lot of things. Like, I don't like ketchup on my burger. It's too sweet. It's amazing for fries, and ketchup has lots of other uses, but it's not something I do on my burger. Curry mayo is good too. You know, have you ever had what's it called? Currywurst, the German dish with the cut up sausage and the curry ketchup. Heinz actually makes a curry ketchup, which you cannot get here, but you can make your own really easily. If you ever want to try something that sounds odd but tastes amazing, it's a German street food called Currywurst, and it's basically like sausages and curry ketchup. Damn, it is really good. I made my own, and it was totally worth it. So, I have a lot of leftover steak, which is fine. I'm going to cook up some more after the stream. But, you guys have any questions before we wrap up? I'm going to hang around for a few minutes. But that's the extent of what I wanted to cover tonight. I think I got everything done. So I'm going to sit here and, if you guys have any questions, finish off my wine. Oh, by the way, for steak, wine, drink whatever you want with your steak. It doesn't matter. White, red, don't let anybody tell you different. However, I personally like really big reds. So this is a Barolo, which is wonderful, which I got tonight, which I've never tried before. But an Amarone would be good. No, that's it. That's what I would drink. Maybe a Chianti, but Amarone is like a upscale Chianti. So, I do have a lot of steak to eat. I'm going to be making steak sandwiches, but I wanted to show you guys the different preps, and I haven't done the duck fat confit thing, which worked out really well. But honestly, it kind of just tastes the same as the pan fried one with that was seared in the duck fat. So I don't know. If you are watching and you haven't signed up for Twitch and you would like to participate in the chat, that is how you do it. The followers help the channel, and also you get to chat, which is, I don't know, fun because, you know, COVID and interaction and all that stuff. So hopefully, I know who some of you are. Actually, I think I know who almost everybody's in the stream tonight. Twitch has a thing about using people's real names, but I know who a lot of you are, and I really hope to get down to Kingston and see some people and get my life back. So I make sausage all the time. I haven't made it recently. I used to have a giant meat grinder, which was quite frankly just too big for the kitchen, so I gave it to my brother. Actually, I think I traded him for some tools. But my brother Pete has the meat grinder, and making your own sausage is incredibly easy, incredibly rewarding, and it's so much fun. There we go. Somebody figured out the following thing. Love it. I could do a sausage thing. I get the meat grinder. You guys want to know how to make sausage? It's really easy. I'm open to suggestions. Actually, let's talk about next time before, if you've gone, you've gone. But if you haven't gone, now is the time to put in requests for next time. I'm flex, guys. I have the Little Boo book, so I can do something from here. These are my favorite go-tos, and if you missed the stream where I talked about the Little Boo book, this is a collection of not only my favorite recipes, and I have lots of favorite recipes, but these are my go-tos. These are the meals that I never get tired of cooking. I can eat over and over and over again, and I've made some amazing things that I made 2 or 3 times. and I'll probably make again in the future, but they're not something that like is good enough for the book. These are as in my tried and true, my go-tos, the things I never get tired of eating. And if you don't have a book like this, you should start one. You don't have to write down your recipes. My book is just. I mean, I know how these recipes work, but nobody else would. I'm gonna switch it. So, as I said, I don't know if you can see this. Probably not. But my recipes are just the list of the ingredients. I don't have quantities. I know roughly how much goes in there. Excuse me, and you should too, and you'll learn. So this is kind of like recipe book, source book, inspiration thing. It's really worth having because I just don't remember well enough all the things I've eaten, and that book has saved my ass so many times where I'm like, what am I going to make for dinner? And I'm totally drawing a blank, and then all of a sudden I was like, oh, I'll just go to the book, and there's a pasta, or actually there's a lot of pasta in the book. So I'm still looking for suggestions for next time. I haven't done burgers yet, and burgers is like a really interesting one, but also it's pretty easy. But if there's something that you guys want to know how to make, I'm more inclined to like cover techniques rather than recipes. I know people keep asking for recipes and whatnot, but I really want to keep it sort of a higher level. I can do smash burgers. That's kind of like when I first started this stream. Before I started, I bought this giant flat top grill, this propane powered grill, because I was going to use it for the. I thought it would be good for the stream, and it turns out it was a terrible idea. I remember those, the little pig burgers. Yeah, Still Not Vegan is referring to a burger I made where I did slow cooked ribs in a smoker. And then normally don't get my ribs so tender that the bones fall out, because to me that means you overcook the rib. But in this particular case I did, because we pulled the ribs and then we built meat patties around the two rib sections. So, ooh, we could do chicken. Do you guys like fried chicken? Because I can do that. I don't know how to pronounce Friesian, but I'll say Friesian. I can do that. No, you can't. Get a smoker. It's every barbecue, every slow cook thing you can do in the oven is a pale imitation of the real thing. But we can do chicken. I can do fried chicken next week. I can show you guys how to take apart chicken, which is really easy and will save you a ton of money. A whole chicken versus buying chicken parts. I did the math on this one, so I can take a chicken apart into its components in about 2 minutes tops. And I actually went out and I bought a chicken at Loblaws, and then I wrote down the prices of all of the packaged parts. So the price per kilo for the chicken breast, and the price per kilo for the thighs and the wings and whatnot. And I took the chicken home and I cut it up and I weighed out each portion and I compared it to their price list. So somebody at Loblaws is making $300 an hour taking apart chickens, because that's the price difference. It's totally crazy. The other thing too is if you buy chicken parts at the store, you don't get the chicken carcass left over to make stock, and stock's great, and it's really easy. It's like super easy to do, especially if you have an Instant Pot. Maybe I'll do fried chicken and show you guys how to make stock in the Instant Pot, which is also incredibly easy. Does anybody have an Instant Pot but me? I mean, I only use mine for stock, but I know people have them. But we're going to do that. We'll do that next week. So fried chicken is going to be next week. I have a couple of recipes that I can show you guys. And I really like fried chicken. So I think we'll do... what are we going to do? Buttermilk fried chicken? Buttermilk fried chicken, which is like the tried and true, can't go wrong, awesome chicken. And we'll do a Nashville hot chicken, which I really like. It's super spicy, but it's one of those iconic fried chicken recipes. So, chicken cordon bleu? Really? Really, that's like really 70s. But we can do, maybe we'll do a 70s night. We'll do like Caesar salad and chicken cordon bleu and baked Alaska, and somebody else throw out one out there. What are those other classic hotel recipes? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. It's a joke. It's a joke. No. No. I have a personal hatred of sun-dried tomatoes. I'm. There was a trend in Toronto for a while where sun-dried tomatoes were just in everything. There was sun-dried tomato ice cream, and it was just gross. I'm not a fan. So. All right, guys. I'm going to log off. I'm going to end the stream. If you have any questions, most of you know who I am. Do I like cauliflower? I do like cauliflower. Did you have an idea for cauliflower? I normally roast it. And I do a cauliflower with cheese, which I really like. I have tried to make cauliflower cauliflower rice, which did not work. But I can do something with cauliflower. And quite frankly, you know what? Cauliflower goes really well with fried chicken. There's some fried preparations you can do with cauliflower too. So that's what it's going to be for next week. I like it. I love this plan. We have fried chicken, some kind of cauliflower thing, and that's it. So thanks everybody for watching, whoever's still hanging around. I really enjoy doing these, and if you missed this or you want to rewatch it, you can pick it up on the channel. And as I said, until I get 50 followers, they stick around for a couple of weeks. After that, they should be permanent, and you can watch them anytime. So have a good night, everybody. I'm taking my wine. I'm going to go feed my partner all of this wonderful steak, and I'm probably going to eat this entire Wagyu tonight. So have a good night, guys.